joining me. My name is Anthony Feist and I'm a lead systems engineer with Citrix in South Africa. When I was asked to present on the topic of resilience, I asked myself the question, what is a resilient workspace? In my mind, it has two primary attributes. Firstly, it should be designed for failure. And secondly, it should be resilient against security threats. The Citrix Workspace has evolved to address these challenges. On the topic of design for failure, I would like to demonstrate a new feature exclusively available in Citrix Cloud called service continuity. The concept of service continuity is that the workspace should be designed for failure. Whether it's a failure in the workspace service, the brokering service, the gateway service, or even the user's internet connection. You may be asking yourself, how could this possibly work? Our product management and engineering teams have been hard at work coming up with the solution. I'll summarize how it works. Starting with the Workspace app, we have introduced progressive web application technology so that the resources that the user has access to can be enumerated in an offline state. Secondly, connection leases are stored on the endpoint device that can only be used by the specific user and device combination. The primary requirement for the solution to work is that the resource location the user is connecting to is available, i.e. the cloud connectors, workloads, and Active Directory. We are using service continuity within our own Xero workspace today, and I'll start off by showing you a functional workspace. To validate that this workspace is fully functional, I'll launch Chrome to ensure that the application launches successfully. For this technology to function, the Workspace app needs to be authenticated. If a user logs off, the connection leases are cleared. As you can see, Chrome has launched successfully. When the Workspace is logged in, the connection leases can be seen on my endpoint device using File Explorer. I'll now add an entry to my endpoint device's host file. This entry will point to our Xero workspace URL to my local device to simulate a loss of access to the cloud workspace. Next, I'll try and refresh my browser to load the workspace URL to ensure that it's no longer available. As you can see, I cannot load the page. Now, I'll reopen the Citrix workspace. Once the workspace is opened, you'll notice a banner at the top of the workspace identifying that I am unable to connect. You'll also notice that certain applications are grayed out, since they are not virtualized applications, but rather SaaS applications that would require access to the service to launch. Again, I'm going to launch Chrome, and you'll notice that this time I'm prompted for credentials. This is expected behavior and confirms that service continuity capability is working as expected. This concludes my demo of the Citrix Cloud service continuity. Next, I'll discuss the Citrix approach to Zero Trust. So let's take a step back a little and talk about what Zero Trust is. Zero Trust is an approach that gets rid of deploying point solutions to achieve a collective security outcome that is bigger than the sum of its parts. There's also no notion of automatic trust, a trusted device, a trusted network, a trusted URL. No, nothing can be trusted automatically. Everything has to be evaluated and monitored, not only at the time of initiating the session, but throughout the session. The Zero Trust model is a response to the realization that the perimeter security approach isn't working, because many data breaches happen because hackers, once they get past the corporate firewalls, were able to move through internal systems without much resistance. And also because the perimeter itself is no longer clearly defined, because applications and data stores are on-premise and in the cloud, with users accessing them from multiple devices and locations. The majority of organizations are using VPNs to enable their remote workers, but many are discovering its limitations. In this cloud and SaaS world, having a VPN concentrator hosted in the data center when users are remote just doesn't make sense. They are effective in delivering network resources and applications to remote workers, but at the risk of opening up network-level access to end-user devices. This often means that they should only be used with corporate managed devices. So how do you accommodate third parties and contractors who also need to access those resources? As a result of these challenges, security risks increases and scalability becomes a challenge, as a large proportion of the workforce is remote, and this leads to a poor user experience. Aside from these challenges, from a security perspective, organizations often require that traffic is routed through the data center, which not only raises privacy concerns, but can also result in an expensive service to business. If organizations choose to use split tunneling to alleviate these challenges, they increase the administrative burden and open up the potential for bad actors to get access to the corporate network from an unsecured personal network or device. The Citrix approach is to provide a single workspace with everything the user needs to be productive, without exposing the corporate network. We provide the users only with the access they require, and after verifying their credentials with an organization's existing identity provider. Providing them with secure access to data, whether it's hosted in a public cloud or an on-premise repository. We provide web filtering and browser isolation capabilities to ensure that malicious threats are kept outside of the corporate network. Single sign-on is utilized across the workspace so that a user is not burdened with having to sign in continuously once they've verified their identity. Finally, we monitor the security posture of users and can take automated actions when security threats are identified, and monitor the performance of the workspace proactively, identifying challenges in the environment that need to be remediated. The Citrix Workspace provides your users with high-performance access to the tools they need to be productive without compromising the security of the organization. The service is designed to scale to accommodate unforeseen circumstances without any user performance degradation. There's also no need to deep manage devices to ensure that they are compliant, as the workspace is designed with zero trust principles in mind. But a major element in improving user experience is to make authentication frictionless to the end user. With the workspace, a user authenticates with strong authentication policies to prove their identity. Using this identity, the workspace authorizes the users to a set of resources, using single sign-on technologies to allow the user to access those resources without additional authentication prompts. Using an identity broker microservice, the workspace determines the contextual policy to use for authentication. Depending on various conditions, such as the user and the device they're using, the authentication provider can set the form of authentication. This could be single or multi-factor authentication, using a combination of passwords, tokens, notifications, and even certificates. The workspace allows for the combinations to be tailored with the protection of the primary identity as our top priority. Here are 4 examples of a user authenticating to the workspace. Built into the workspace service, we have AD with time-based one-time password tokens. We also have the Citrix Gateway with Duo. On the bottom left, we have Okta, and then Azure AD with YubiKey. As you can see, Workspace brokers the identity to an identity provider, bringing choice and flexibility to our customers. Now that we've established a primary identity, we can authorize the user to access secondary resources. Even when the primary and secondary identities are different, the single sign-on microservice provides this translation to deliver a single sign-on experience to the end user. As an example of this, we can see how a user authenticates to the workspace with an Active Directory username and password and a token, which is actually built into our Citrix Cloud service. From there, using single sign-on, launching Office 365 requires no additional login, and the user is automatically authenticated and sent to the Office 365 launch page. Once the user logs on to the Citrix Workspace, it provides them with a unified experience, regardless of the device they're on. Users are able to access their apps, data, desktops, where it's organized in one location using a unified interface. The intelligence of the workspace guides and automates many of the tasks for them. Just take Salesforce as an example. If a user needs to add some information to an opportunity, they must log in, get to the home page, navigate opportunities, find the opportunity, find the correct action, and finally enter the details. All of this for a single app, where the typical user has many apps to become acquainted with. For apps that they use routinely, this means extra time spent on repetitive tasks. For apps that are rarely used, it means extra time spent reminding themselves how to use the application. This is the trade-off when using mature feature-rich applications today that are also likely to be more complex, and presenting users with so many different options that very few people in the organization will actually use. The workspace addresses this by presenting the most important functions to the user through microapps. To demonstrate the microapps feature of the workspace and the actions that was assigned to my user's account, we can log into my home page. As an example, I could have logged on to Salesforce to create a new lead in our system. But this, as I mentioned in the previous screen, would have meant navigating the various screens to find the action I need. Since my administrator knows that I need to do this regularly, I now have a microapp on my actions page where the process is simplified greatly, and I only have to enter the details that are pertinent to the lead and submit it. Back on my home page, an activity feed guides me through the tasks that are most relevant to me, like viewing the latest sales figures or reviewing expenses for my team members, with all the information readily available to make a decision on the spot. Microapps are created using a page builder delivered within the Citrix Cloud Console. It connects to your legacy on-premise and SaaS applications to easily create streamlined user workflows with low-code tooling. There are over 100 microapp actions available, with the ability to create custom actions to leverage custom applications. Using the same workspace, I'm also able to access my desktops, whether these are Windows or Linux desktops. My files are readily available, and all the different locations where we share data is conveniently consolidated in one place, so that I don't have to change context all the time. And adopting the workspace doesn't have to be all or nothing. As an example, you can start using it as a way to consolidate your files only, and then gradually build towards the rich feature sets available. Content collaboration provides a single pane of glass for accessing data, starting document workflows, and enables security controls around the data. Citrix Analytics is a state-of-the-art big data analytics platform that spans 3 solution areas for root cause analysis, namely security, performance, and productivity. It's a platform based on sophisticated AI and machine learning that provides advanced analytics in the form of scores that are quantifiable and measurable against trends in the environment. The scores span all analytics types and can be viewed from a user-centric, infrastructure, or application perspective. This allows customers to quantify UX and app performance with the ability to have multi-site aggregation and reporting. Analytics also spans the Citrix portfolio to include virtual apps and desktops, endpoint management, content collaboration, and secure workspace access. The UX score is comprised by collecting real-time data pertaining to the user, such as latency, logon time, failures, and reconnections. Data generated from this can also be used for modeling, benchmarking, drill downs, and identifying relative impact factors. In addition to data from the Citrix portfolio, and thanks to a close collaboration with Microsoft Azure team, Microsoft sources such as Azure AD ID protection is also used. Based on the insights generated, Citrix Analytics is able to take closed-loop autonomous actions against these Citrix products, or export the data to Azure Sentinel. It's this ability to intervene in the individual products, especially in the workspace, that gives us a unique advantage of leveraging our data and insights to drive action into the system. The Citrix Analytics platform provides the intelligence necessary for user-based security analytics that tracks and models individual user behaviors across the enterprise. Using machine learning, we create an individualized profile for each user and assign a risk score to them that dynamically adjusts as they work. This machine learning platform is a Citrix Cloud service that will rapidly evolve as new threat models appear. We can then use the risk score to determine, based on policies controlled by the customer, what actions to take. This common policy framework is essential to allow our business rules that apply specifically to an organization in a language that applies policy across multiple products and services in the infrastructure. Today we explored the resilience of the Citrix Workspace, both in terms of rolling with the inevitable punches with service continuity, and ensuring that the workspace is hardened against both external and internal threats, while still providing an excellent user experience. Thank you very much for your time and attention today.